All right, so let's play around with Angular directives. Right. So directives, we've been using directives all throughout our application, right? Through the form of these attributes, right? All these attributes that all start with ng dash something, right? Those are all directives that are declared by the Angular core library, right? And we can create our own, right? Behind that ng repeat, behind all these ng switches and whatnot, right? There is JavaScript, right? That does talk to the DOM in native format, right? In raw JavaScript, raw DOM manipulation, okay? And it creates this abstraction layer so that we don't have to, right? But let's play around with it, all right? So let's create here a directory called directives, okay? And let's create our very simple hello directive. Okay. And here we have h1 hello world, right? All right. So let's navigate there. And it's let's see, it's under public lectures, directives, hello.html. Okay, so we're there. Very good. All right, so to be able to use directives, right, this has to be an Angular application, right? So let's create a very simple Angular application. We'll say that ng app directive app, okay? And for that, we're going to need to load all the necessary libraries. So let's bring aboard the let's see, go up one, JavaScript, no, up one more, JavaScript. Here's the Angular library. There it is. Okay, and let's create our directive app module. And let's declare it here, app.js. All right, and let's see. And here we'll create app.js, app.js. And here we'll create our very simple directive example. So we have Angular, and the module is called directive app. Okay? And if we load, we have some errors. Let's see what it says. Directive app, blah, 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 directive. Did I call it directive? Oh, dependency. There we go. All right, so we have a very simple Angular application. So simple that it doesn't do anything, right? Okay, so let's do a couple things here. What the directives allows us to do, is to take over the entire HTML document, right? We can rewrite HTML. If we don't like HTML, the way it behaves or how it renders, right? We can rewrite the behavior of HTML. Okay. We can create new elements. We can take over existing elements. We can tweak the behavior of existing elements. Let's create a new one, a brand new element. Okay. We'll call it hello. Okay. This is the absolutely simplest element. I really wanted an HTML element that said that it's called hello. It doesn't exist. I can create ones. I can create brand new elements. Okay? So let's create it. So to create brand new elements, okay, I can say I'm going to declare a brand new directive whose name is hello. This name has to exactly match this name. Well, actually, not exactly. We'll see in a minute. Right? Here's directive, and then the function that actually implements it. Hello directive. So function hello directive. All right, everybody okay? Everybody good? All right, so what this is going to do is that the Angular, right, is going to, when you declare a directive hello, it's going to now keep an eye for any elements in the HTML, that matches the same name of the directive. Okay, right? So now this tag that I declared over here, I'm using here, is now mapped to this function. Whatever this function says, that's how our hello tag is going to behave, right? Whatever we want it to do. Okay. So for instance, right, what we could do, the way this works is that this function works like a factory, right? It creates an object. Instantiates an object. That configures the behavior of that tag. Okay, this brand new tag. Right? So this is going to return an object. So I'm going to create here a configuration object. It's an object, and then we're going to return this object. Return config. And one of the things that we can do is that we can configure how do we want it to render. What do I want it to say? When I say template, what do we want to render on the screen? Right. So the template is actual HTML content, right, that can be injected into that element. So if this could be hello from hello directive. Right. So if I render, notice that indeed it rendered as hello from hello directive. See that? Right. So that tag, right, right, gets rendered any which way our template says. Right. So for instance, if I look at if we inspect it, notice that we have the hello element, and inside there, notice that we indeed have the hello from hello directive text. See that? Or it could be a more complex HTML, right? This could be an H2, right? Actual HTML, right? There it is, right? Notice that we have the hello, and then inside we have the H2. Yes? Everybody still with me? Everybody okay? All right. Now the hello tag here can be used in many different ways, right? Over here it's being used as a element and as an actual HTML element, okay? Or it can be used also as an HTML attribute. Okay, so for instance, instead of this being a hello element, right, this could be a div, and the attribute is hello. Yeah, that's an actual attribute. See that? And this would behave exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. Notice that it's a div with the attribute hello. Right? So there's several triggers that the Angular language is looking for. Right? This hello, this declaration of the hello directive can be matched against either an element called hello, an attribute called hello, or a class also called hello. Right? So it can be you can use it as many different ways. You can apply behaviors to things either as a class, you can treat it, you can apply behavior as an attribute, or you can apply it as an element itself. All right. What we've seen over the last couple of month or so is that they apply behavior mostly as attributes. See that? That's just attributes, which can then also receive configuration. Notice that it's ng repeat, and then it takes an argument on the right-hand side. See that? Right? It's whatever you think makes sense as a syntactically. Right? Whatever, it's open. Whatever you want it to, however you want to be able to use it. Sometimes it makes sense to have elements, right? Sometimes it makes more sense to declare them as attributes, and sometimes as classes. Okay. All right, so these templates can contain all sorts of things, right? It can contain actual Angular templates, right? That can have ng repeats and all sorts of things in there, right? Okay. All right. So another way that we can okay. Let me just point out another thing here. Right? Let's declare yet another directive. Let's declare yet another directive. Right. Instead of hello, we'll call this hello world. Okay. Now this hello world over here. Notice we typically when we have multiple words, we have a very long name for elements, an HTML elements, right? We use dashes, right? Because HTML is case insensitive, right? So whether you use something capital or lowercase, right, is irrelevant, right? If we used hello world, right, or it's all caps, the browser couldn't care less, right? So to make sure that indeed these are two separate words, right? Because we can't guarantee the casing, we can't guarantee the casing. We use dashes, right? We use dashes. That's a very common way that we use multiple words. Yes, right. This is how we do it in HTML. But on the JavaScript side, we don't use dashes, right? Dashes, we can't use dashes as names of variables, right? Or functions or anything like that. The naming convention in JavaScript and many other object-oriented languages is to use what is called camel casing, right? Camel casing the words start with a lowercase, and then every word is then capitalized, right? The first letter of each word is capitalized, right? So Angular, right, follows these two conventions and creates a mapping between the HTML world, right, and the JavaScript world, right, and how the casing is on both sides. So the mapping to map this tag over here, this element over here, it's going to be pattern matched against this hello world. Okay. Notice that in here we don't use dashes. Instead, we use camel casing, right? And Angular knows about these two worlds, right? And it pattern match hello world with capital W. Will pattern match it with hello world, a lowercase w with a dash in front of it. Yes? Right, so this over here matches this right here. Everybody okay? All right. So over here, let's create another one here. Function. The name of the function doesn't really matter. Right? The name of the function doesn't really matter. I just keep them the same just to keep my head straight. And here, let's just write a little template here. Okay, and then we can say hello. So this is camel cased hello world. Right. So if we refreshed, there it is, camel cased hello world. All right, everybody okay? Right. Yes. Here, like this, it won't match it. No. Right, no, but the rule, the pattern matching rule is that on the HTML side, we use dashes, right? And it will convert that to capital W and no dashes on the JavaScript side. It's called, I think it's called normalization. Naming normalization. No, yeah. So this this object that we're expecting here, right, it follows a structure, right, has a particular schema, right? The attributes that you can put in there are template, template URL, scope, link. We'll see a couple of them, right? But yes, no, but the object follows a particular schema, right? Template is useful if you just have a very quick, piece of content that you want to add there, right? If instead, if it's an entire HTML document, right? It's very, very long. Instead, you can say template URL, and say the document is actually located in views hello world.html, right? So go fetch it over there. And so this is, if we grab it and put it in index, let's see, where are we? Lectures, let's put it in here. So hello world, and this, well, it's a snippet, right? So we say h3, this is content in a separate HTML snippet, right? So if we load that, it's going to say that it couldn't find it. So where is it? Okay, where is it looking for it? Right, so the folder, okay, so it's looking for it in lectures, directive, views. Okay, so it's looking, all right, so let's remove the views. There it is. So this content, right, is in a separate HTML snippet, right? So if you have entire, very long content, you can add it that way. Make sense? All right. Okay. So we can add other things. We can say a directive that says color me red, right? And so this one, guess what it could do? We like to apply perhaps a piece of content, right? Like this h1, we could say the attribute color me red. Right. Notice that it's smart enough that I created this color me red, right? It already knows, right? It parses it, right? The IDE is smart enough that it matches this color me red over here, right? Okay, so let's implement color me red. So this is a little bit different, right? Because the content already exists. I don't want to create the content, right? I want to take the content that's already there, has been already parsed, has already been rendered. I just want it afterwards, after everything has been compiled, right? I like to grab it. I like to grab the DOM that represents that element, and I want to tweak it. I want to do a couple things to it, right? I don't want to generate the content. It's already been generated. I want to kind of see it afterwards, after it has been rendered, right? So to do that, there's another attribute here other than template called the link attribute. Right? The link attribute allows us to manipulate elements that have already been compiled, already been rendered, right? And we get a hold of the DOM so that we can tweak it a little bit, right? So let's do that. We can say return object. Notice that here I'm returning a config object that's right here. Here I'm returning the object right here, right? So I'm not putting it in an array. I'm not putting it in a variable. I'm returning the object right away. Yes? Okay. So instead of using template, I'm going to use another function called the link. Okay. So link allows you to provide a function, the link function. Right? And in that link function, okay, you can receive, right, as part of the compilation process, when Angular is interpreting this h1, you can get a hold in the function. It's going to be passed to you the actual elements, the DOM elements, right, so that you can tweak it, or you can do other things, right? One of the things that is being passed to you is the scope, right? Meaning that if outside somebody's generating objects or data, right, and it's mapped to some scope, right, I will get that data here, right? So that allows my little world of my little directive, right, to talk to the outside world, somebody who might be providing data from outside. Okay, we're not going to do that just yet. The other thing that gets passed to me is the actual element. The actual element, right? It's a jQuery element that has been already being identified in the DOM by jQuery, right? And it gets passed to me right here as a second argument, right? So let's do console. We're going to do console log the actual element. Right, so if I do that, notice that it says, yep, indeed you've got the H1, right? See that we applied it to the H1. See that? Right, it's applying it to this H1, the color me red. So if I hover over it, if I click on it, notice that if I hover it, notice that it says the browser knows that, yeah, it's that H1 over there. That's the H1 that I'm passing you. Right, you have a reference to it. You have a reference to it. And we can do all sorts of things to it, right? For instance, one of the things we could do is CS. We can say element, can't spell. We can change its color. We can use the CSS method that we used earlier in jQuery, remember? Right? We can change its color. We can change it to red. And indeed, it's red. Okay? Make sense? Right? Okay. And we can do things like this for anything, right? We can pile on many other behaviors, right? We can say, make me draggable, right? Make me draggable, right? We can implement that, and again, using the link, we can grab that element, right, and make it draggable, right? So, for instance, let's return. Careful, don't do this, right? Link function. What's wrong with this? With this return. See over here, the curly bracket is on the same line as the return, right? Whereas this curly bracket is not on the same line of the return. Okay, so JavaScript is a little lazy, and if it sees return here, it will return, ignoring the object down below. All right, so careful there, right? Many sleepless nights. This is why was that not working? So here's our link function. Here's function, and here's our scope, and the element. Okay, and what do we want to do with the element? We want to say element draggable. Right. So if we render, right, and try to move it, it doesn't move. Wait, why is it not moving? Oh, yes, thank you. That would help. So let's see. Let's make this hello world here. Make it draggable. So make me. I didn't find it. Why are you not finding it? Make me draggable. Make me draggable. Is not a function. Yeah. Element draggable is not a function. Ooh, did we declare jQuery UI? We did not. So here's Angular. Oh, okay, so notice what happened, right? Notice that this worked, the CSS, because that's part of the jQuery Lite library, right? That's the jQuery that Angular uses for its own purposes, right? But here we want to use a full-blown jQuery library. So we need to load it before Angular so that Angular uses ours instead, right? So we'll say script, source, go up one, twice. Let's go to jQuery. And let's load also the UI version of this. There we go. Okay, so it looks like, what do we make draggable? This guy, right? Okay, there it is. It's draggable. I can move it around, right? Same thing for sortable, right? If I have a UL here, right? And I have several line items. Right, and I want to say that this is draggable, so make me sortable, right? Then we can then do something similar. We can say grab this and says make me sortable. Right, which is going to be very similar to this. Make me sortable. So this would be sortable. Right? And so presumably we can now drag this around and move it around. Okay, did that make sense? All right, so something like this you could do for the assignment. In the assignment, right here, right, in the assignment, you could create a directive, a folder where you could put all your directives, right? Directives, right? And in your directives, you can create a JavaScript, right? And this could be called maybe sortable dot directive dot client dot JS, right? So we can grab function, and we can say grab the Angular, the module that we've been working on is what's it called? Web app maker, right? App maker, and declare a directive called I don't remember what it's called, but I think maybe we'll call it webdev sortable. How's that? Sortable. Implement it in a directive locally. So function sortable directive, right? That returns a link, right? Which one? This. Oh, yes, thank you. Someone's awake, not me. So there's the function, right? And there's link function that's going to receive the scope, which we're not using for now, and then we get the actual element that we want to make sortable. You can say element.sortable, right? Perhaps configure it so that the axis is only the y-axis, right? Right. Now we can go back and load that from our index page, load our directives. Load our directive. Let's see, it's src, it's in directives, and then it's sortable directives. Right, we load it, and then from within our HTML. So this would be in the widget list. Right? We had this widget list. We can say that this is webdev sortable. There it is, right? And what about the controller? Did we remove it from the controller? I forget. Controller, widget list controller. Yeah, we commented out, right? We commented it out. So that if we go back in the widget list, where is it? So localhost, assignment, widget, right? Why is it so big? So we have this line item. Notice that it's sortable, right? Oops. Yeah, I gotta see this version. What's just 3.3, right? 3.3.1? 3.1, okay, yeah. I'll update these. Yeah, there it is. So it's sortable, but notice that we haven't broken, right? We haven't broken the MVC design pattern, right? We've kept the low-level access to the jQuery where they belong, right? In directives, right? That's the appropriate way to access low-level access to the DOM, right? Hide it inside of directives, right? And then again, to maintain the appearance, right? Maintain the high-level abstraction layer, right? So that we don't want to break that fourth wall, right? Anyway, I'm going to leave it here. Any questions? Yes. Right, exactly. So in the sortable, there's one attribute that you can configure and say what is the handle, meaning yes, this whole thing is sortable, but I only want to be able to grab it by a particular element, right? So you can give it a class or an ID and say, okay, so only if you drag that, then the thing will drag, right? Not anywhere in the div. It's one of the arguments, one of the configurations of sortable. I think it's called handle. Yep.
We don't pass anything to
I'm sorry?
From the external side, it's just a webdev sortable, and then we don't pass anything.
Right, we don't need to, but you can pass it. Yeah, this is optional.
Can we pass the Lipicon justifier?
We could. We can say equal and then the handle, the class of the handle. And then from within here, right, there's another argument called attributes, okay, which lists all the attributes that are being passed as arguments. And so you can read that and then do your code in there. Yes?
How would we go by saving this work?
We'll do that on Friday. Yeah. Because notice that even though it's changing in the DOM, right, Angular still thinks that the widgets are in their original position, right? Actually, Angular is going to be very mad because it has its own mental model of where things are in the DOM, and somebody underneath is changing it. Says, hey, wait a minute, that's not the original order that I had in my array, my data model, right? So we'll talk about that on Friday.